Hello everyone, this is part 7 of What If Naruto Got Lost During His Training TS, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Be sure to like and subscribe, it gives me more motivation. Enjoy. Your first lesson will be about this place we are in, Kyonshi began, but before I begin, do you have any questions? So, do you know exactly where we are? Naruto asked. What do you think? Kyonshi asked sarcastically. Of course I know where we are. Oh, you know, I thought you got smarter, but apparently not. Are you going to start with the lesson now, or are you going to just sit there and insult me? Start the lesson, Kyonshi said. Okay, Naruto said, do I need to take notes or something? No, not really. Okay, Naruto waited, can we start now? Before the world was born, there was a void, but Naruto interrupted him. How can you know that, if there was a void? Naruto asked. That doesn't matter, just accept the fact that I do, Kyonshi calmly answered. Okay, Naruto said, you can continue now. Thank you for letting me continue, Kyonshi said. Now where was I? There was a void. Thank you. You're welcome. The lesson. Oh, right. Well, as I was saying, before the world was born, there was a void. Kyonshi began anew. Before Izanagi and Izanami had been thought up, and even before anything divine had been thought up, there was a void, but not just any void. The void. The only remnant of eons past. Nothing else remained from eons past, save for the void. There was once a time before the void, but not even I know what existed before that. No one around today knows what existed before the void. Existence before the void, if ever there was anything, no longer is as it once was. The void is all that remains of that time. But enough about that time. The true beginning of my relevant knowledge was at the time when a spark of existence was lit in the center of the void. After this event, the void ceased being the void. It had gained two distinct features, the light and the darkness. Although the light was smaller than the darkness, but like most small things they grow, and oh boy did this one grow. It grew and grew till the darkness had to catch up. It was a race, back and forth did the mantle of greater trade places between the two. First dark, then light, then dark again. On and on did this cycle continue until neither light nor dark could tell each other apart. That was when chaos set in. Light and dark no longer existed as separate entities, they were now mixed, and jumbled up into one infinite mess. Things would have continued the way it did had something not spontaneously existed. A single entity had halted the chaos from further existing as it was. This event happened eons after the chaos came to exist. The entity was a being of everything, yet also of nothing, a confusing being as I'm sure you are thinking. Naruto interrupted the tale with an affirmative, but after receiving a glare silenced himself, and the sender of said glare continued the tale. But a being with the ability and the capacity to put chaos into order, meant that that being was powerful. Kyonshi would have continued had Naruto not interrupted him again. Please don't tell me you were that being. No, I will not. Now either let me continue without any further irrelevant interruptions, or do you already know this tale and do not need to hear it again? Quote. Naruto's silence answered the query. The being was powerful, but not just plain power, not just your run-of-the-mill power. This being was what I would like to think as the thing that started it all. Had its intervention not occurred, you and I would not be having this conversation or storytelling, now would we? He then stared at Naruto. Don't answer that. Quote. Naruto didn't answer. From this sudden order, the being took the lighter half and separated it from the darker half. The lighter half was above, while the darker below. But to balance the two halves, it placed the remaining chaos in between. The lighter half became what are now known as the heavens, the sky, and the waters, while the darker half is what are now the underworlds, the ground, the energies. Then the chaos is where all manner of life had spawned. While order was divided, chaos was, well, chaos. Nothing from chaos was light or dark, all were a mixture of both. Order had 3 sons, and 3 daughters, while chaos had more. Chaos as before produced a problem of sorts, chaos had produced far too many sons and daughters even for order to look after. Now by this time, the being had assigned roles to chaos and order. Chaos was male, while order was female. Just as it is today, male and female still take on these roles. Males or men are chaotic, while women are more of order. But at the same time either are still both. Each gender has a certain amount of each, but most tend to have more of one than the other. Therein lies the chaos. Mortals are creatures of chaos, while to retain either a balance or an imbalance would cause the mortal to become something more. Immortals, that is a term not to be used lightly, as there are many degrees and forms which immortality is and can become. There is immortality of the mind, ageless knowledge, unending or uns wisdom. There is the immortality of the body, uns of the mortal shell. There is the immortality of the soul, the uns spirit. There is also the immortality of all. There are more than these, but I will discuss only those that are relevant to you, my young apprentice. Getting back to the children of chaos. There were far too many of them for order and her children to look after. The being, after some eons of contemplation and meditation, divided the children of chaos into groups. With this division, the being created more of order's kind. Then chaos produced another problem. Where would his children be placed? Order and her children could not hold them, for they were still plenty, and were too complex for them to understand, fathom, and to maintain. To solve this problem the being reformed the void. It needed an open space, it needed a blank slate with limitless possibilities. This new void, reshaped from the old, was the blank slate that it needed in order to perform what needed to be done. With the void in place the being then suffused a portion of its power with void, a fraction of its power, but enough to mutate the void. At the center of the void another spark was lit, but unlike the first this one was unstable. Right from the beginning chaos had taken his hold of it. The being did not interfere with chaos and his actions. The chaos spread throughout the void, filling it up with more of himself. After passively watching the chaos spread, order got tired of the display and decided to act. She took hold of the center, around where the spark had been influenced, and attempted to control it, to contain the spread. But by being not as powerful as the being that created the spark, she was only able to contain the chaos in smaller spheres. In marbles that glowed with power. The power held within these orbs being smaller, acted like the light did, they grew. But the marbles remained as they were. These marbles were the earliest suns and stars. The power kept growing and growing, until no longer being able to contain the energies, they exploded. This explosion drew in the children of order. The first to join the mix was energy, which forced the power to take shape, to become the blueprints for future creations. Next were the ground, the sky, and the water. These three as they were drawn in split and divided themselves equally among the blueprints to complete their forms. Then the last two entered. But since they were the most ordered of the six, they could not associate themselves with the chaos, so the heavens rose above all the chaos, while the underworld settled below. Once these actions were completed, the being stepped in. It beckoned the children of chaos to follow their cousins, and join the void. As each group entered, the being directed them to a different construct. After all had been placed, chaos brought up another problem: what would happen next? Order had no qualms and never did, but chaos continued to find another problem just as one had been solved. The being did not put forward a solution, which frustrated chaos greatly. In his frustration, he slammed his power into the void, shattering it into countless pieces. From this shattering of the void was born the different spaces, the different dimension, the different worlds. It seems like you're oversimplifying the creation of the world, Naruto pondered out loud, which resulted in Kyonshi having to pause in his telling to the tale. There are some things that your mind is not yet ready to handle, as well as some things that your mind never will. You know what, I think I'll accept that for now. But once you are going to have to tell me this story again, with the details that would have ked me had you told them to me today. Okay. First and you'll get my answer, Kyonshi casually answered. Shall I continue, or are we going to find out if I will retell the story after us? I'm not Hokage yet, am I? Naruto replied rhetorically. After the worlds were created, and life began, yes Naruto, I am skipping some parts. Go read up all the mythology books in the library if you want the complete creation story. Since all those stories have a grain of truth in them. As I was saying, after the worlds were created, and life began, chaos saw more problems arising, but chose not to voice this, as he was already sure the being had also seen it. Order, on the other hand, although knowing her other two companions had noticed it, decided to voice the problem, or rather in this case problems. What was the purpose? What were the rules? Order would have listed them all, but she was immediately silenced after the second one was said, by the being itself. Like most of the creations that chaos had spawned, the three celestials started to take shape. Yes, Naruto, that is what they were later called. These celestials started to gain the characteristics most common to a greater number of the creations. Order took the shape and form of a woman of incomparable beauty, while chaos took the form of man with incomparable ugliness. The being decided that it too would take on a more recognizable form. It grew no supremely distinguishable features, but instead it merely formed a head, arms, and legs. Its form could be likened to a silhouette. After clamping Order's mouth shut, it told the two others to watch the progress of the first of the firsts. They were solving the problems that all three had taken note of on their own. But among these creatures there were those that specialized in one problem and found a solution to it. Their understanding of the solution was superior to all others. But unlike the Celestials, that were everlasting, these creatures were mortal. Their boss were tied to the world they lived in. You know of where the souls of the departed go, do you not? Kyonshi asked, but did not let Naruto reply, of course you do. But back in those days, the spirits merely moved about. They had no direction, due to them having no guide. By the time that there were creatures that had solved the problems, each dimension, and in turn, each world was already inhabited by trillions. After the first one of these specialized souls SD, the being took its soul, and set it apart from the countless other souls moving around. And continued to do so with the others until it had collected millions of each. Each one was granted a gift from the being. This gift was logic. Logic far superior and far more advanced than any they could ever come up with. Then they were each given a choice. They were each to pick where they would reside. Their choices they were allowed to choose from were the heavens, the underworlds, the worlds they had lived in, the remnants of the void, within the energies, or lastly in all. Each of these souls chose a place. Before being sent to their choice they were told of their responsibilities. These souls were later dubbed as the Enlightened Ones. For all intents and purposes, these were also dubbed as the gods, the powers that be, the almighties. Before Kyonshi was able to continue spouting out terms and titles, he was hit on the head with a pineapple that fell out of nowhere. Get on with the story already, said a voice that resounded and echoed in his head. Could you repeat that last part? Naruto asked while looking at his notes. The gods, the powers that be, and the something, and you were going to say something after that, but I'm not sure. So could you please start over from the part about the gods? You're actually taking notes? Kyonshi asked, staring at Naruto's little notepad. Yeah. You might test me on this stuff later. Naruto, you really don't need to take notes. I'm not going to quiz you later about these stuff. Oh, I think I'll keep taking notes. For all I know you could be lying or something. Suit yourself. Now then, where was I? He paused thinking, then continued, yes. Now after these enlightened ones were appointed the positions, they were also given immortality. They would exist as they were for as long they were needed, and or were believed to exist. You see, my young apprentice, belief is a powerful thing. Eons passed, and more passed and more and more and more and Kyonshi was unable to continue rambling due to him having to dodge another pineapple, but getting hit in the gut by a soccer ball-sized coconut. Avoiding another headache caused by a voice he hadn't heard in years speaking directly to his soul, he quickly resumed his tale. Anyways, after a really long time, some worlds had destroyed themselves, some dimensions had crumbled, some universes had imploded, and others of these things and more experienced many more other things. The point is, things changed over time. One day, all the enlightened ones gathered together. Simply put, they had a meeting. Their topic: moving forward or restart. There were those that chose the first, others that chose the second, but there was one that decided to choose both. Keep the world, while at the same time restarting it. They would need to gain the aid of their creators, which after much contemplation and meditation they were able to contact. It's not like the Celestials were hard to contact, it was not like the Celestials were unaware of their plight, but the Celestials wanted the enlightened ones to experience hardship. These things build character after all. The Celestial, simply known as the being with a capital B, divided all the spaces, dimensions, universes, worlds, creatures, etc. into three. 1/3 it set to one side, 1/3 it placed opposite of the first, and the third it took between its hands and crumpled up, jumbled up, mixed up, basically turned it into mush, and placed it in between the other 2/3. It then ordered the enlightened ones to watch over the ones that they wanted to, but these could only come from one of the 2/3, not both, and not the center one. The enlightened one which chose wanted two things to happen, was set aside. Here task was to be told to him later. Once all the other enlightened ones had made the choices, order took over. She arranged the cosmos on both sides. Chaos then joined order in clean-up duty. He pulled strings of essence from the center third, and attached one string to each of the things found on each side of the center mass. Once the two younger and more immature celestials had finished with their work, the being once again took charge. It gathered the remnants of the void from each side and added more of its power into them, and splashed the newly powered void pieces around. Everywhere, the being had forced itself, as well as its two companions, into being a part of the reformed void. It then ordered order to merge once more with the void, but allowed her to still keep her consciousness. She would from that moment onwards play a more active role in everything, the same thing with chaos. Finally almost everything that had to be done was done, the only thing remaining was the centerpiece. The remaining third. The being poured more than a handful of its power into the last enlightened one, then told him that the remaining third of all things was his to do whatever he wanted to, except let it pass on into non-existence. After giving this final instruction, the being merged itself with the void, a large chunk joining with the ball at the center of it all. The only one left was the enlightened one. So left alone in the void, he shaped the ball into whatever he wished. Eons more passed, and he witnessed the evolutions of the other things in existence. After more eons of watching the progress around him, he grew envious and lonely, so he formed a world dimension of his own, with only one world in it, his. In it he brought to existence many things from the other world, as well as some things that were uniquely his own. But there was one thing that he couldn't create, or seem to create, intelligent or highly sentient life. This enlightened one could not create things like humans, and the like. Everything else he could do. But the epitome of creation was the one thing he could not replicate. After wandering aimlessly around his dimension world, he came across some shadow that were unlike any that he had created. These shadows resembled the void, except they were more solid somehow. Curious, he walked forward, attempting to walk into one and feel its shape. What he didn't know was that the shadow was not all that solid. But he did find this out after walking through one, and coming out in another world. He then enthusiastically traversed the world in search of intelligent life, something that could keep him companion, something that could end his loneliness. After centuries of millennia of searching, he finally came across one, only one. Thinking that this one being was as lonely as he tried to pull it with him back to his world. But as he arrived back, his would-be companion had not arrived with him. Puzzled at this, he sat on the highest point of his world and meditated. The answer came to him in a dream. The dream was sent by the enlightened one who ruled over or was in charge of that world. It explained that caping was one thing that would not be allowed. Even with all the power that had been granted to him, the lonely enlightened one did not have the authority to just take from the other worlds. Caping was not a solution, it was a cheat. But, as the message told, if somehow something or someone from one of the other world wandered or found his world on their own, then they could visit or even stay, and become partly his. This news brought a little joy to him. He was still sad, which was because it would likely take a long time for something or someone would find its way to his world. But in the meantime, as he waited for a visitor to arrive, he did not notice that some creatures and creations on his own world were evolving. Slowly the first creature that would later become one of his many companions approached him. It was an fox with 8 tails. It spoke to him, asking him if he was lonely sitting at the top of the mountain as he was. Too shocked to answer, he just hugged the creature. Once he was gathered his thoughts, he asked the creature how it had come to be there with him, sitting beside him on his lofty peak. It told him that it had walked. Then he asked it from where did it walk. It answered from its home a long way down. He asked the creature if it could show him, which it obliged. He was astounded to realize that the fox had come from the jungle surrounding his mountain. He may not have been able to create them outright, but somehow, he had created the building blocks for these creatures. After this first one, he met others that wished to stay with him. So he had to build a home for himself as well as a place for all of them to stay. 5 centuries later, the first visitor from another world had accidentally found its way into his world, which the enlightened one promptly took in. The being was an orphan in the way that his world was literally a world away. After the first, more and more came his way. Some stayed, some left, some returned, some never did. Eventually he would learn that the descendants of these companions of his were under his jurisdiction. He could take them from the other worlds, and the other enlightened ones could do nothing about it. For in a way, they were part his. The years and generations went by, and even though he was no longer lonely, he grew bored. Also, he did not like to waste things. He had knowledge, and he knew that many would like to know even a fraction of what he knew. He found a new hobby, teaching. One of the other enlightened ones had come to be known as the original teacher. Some of those that believed in him associated the words, enlightened one, with the word, teacher. So he thought, why not? What did he have to lose? Not even time, since he kind of had a hand in that force as well as many others. So he taught, but not many. He chose his students wisely, but there were those few that were bad eggs. He just didn't know it yet. He wanted to be surprised in life, so he blocked off his ability to see all, his ability to being omniscient, and all that he blocked. This was also so that he could be closer to his companions. So, any question? Kyonshi ended his tale. Naruto raised his hand. Anyone? Naruto started to wave his hand, and said, me. Me. Pointing at Naruto, who was in front of him. Yes, you up in front. So, what is the food of the gods? Next question. Kyonshi said after falling out of his chair and getting back on it. Who is the enlightened one? Kyonshi was shocked at the question. How dense can this gaki be? Maybe I should have him create some of those scholar clones of his, he thought to himself. Suddenly realizing that the question was a stupid one, Naruto changed his question. So, what's the next lesson, zombie-sensei? Oh, you're smart again, he said in a calmer manner. Your next lesson will be about many things. Suffice to say, I just need you to create a lot of clones. Kyonshi stood up and motioned to Naruto to follow him somewhere. Naruto followed his sensei through a number of doorways until the pair ended up in a white space. The same white space that Kyonshi and Token were in after Token was pulled out of Naruto's gut. Naruto, I want you to gather as much chakra as you can. I'll tell you when to stop. So Naruto formed the ram seal and gathered as much chakra as he could. Soon an aura of light blue started to form around him. The light that had formed around him soon started to cover him like a second skin. It had become like an aura of power. Keep going, Naruto, you're going to need a lot more than that for what I've got planned. Naruto had no choice but to continue gathering chakra. He shut his eyes and scrunched up his face in extreme concentration. He just kept gathering what power he had within him. His aura had already turned dark blue. This meant that due to all his shadow cloning, advanced shadow cloning, modified and specialized shadow cloning, his chakra reserves had grown exponentially. At the amount of chakra he had gathered, he could probably create 100,000 regular shadow clones, or 1,000 advanced and modified shadow clones, clones that could withstand as much damage as Naruto could before he would pass out, while the clones would puff out of existence. Probably enough chakra had already been generated to create 100 clones that would be able to stay solid for a few more minutes after being hit by enough hits that would KO Naruto. Keep going, Naruto, you still got some more power in you. Naruto concentrated on finding more chakra, but he seemed to be running out of the blue energy. Suddenly, in his desperation, he tapped into a power he did not know he had. His aura shrunk down to a nearly transparent state. But for some reason he could feel the air pressure around him grow stronger. The gravity felt like it was trying to pull harder on him. He didn't give in to the urge to give in. He kept on going, kept on drawing on the power source. Slowly the pressure on his body grew stronger and stronger. As the minutes passed, his aura started to become visible. It had transcended from dark blue to light purple. Keep at it, Naruto. The sooner you gather what I need you to gather, the sooner you can continue your training. Powered solely by his will, Naruto pulled the purple power out of its source. The pull resulted in a flood of power. The power just poured out, flowed out, escaped from its container. Like a tsunami, the power exploded outwards. Moments before the explosion, Naruto's aura was completely black. He was covered completely in a solid cocoon of darkness. After the explosion, he along with his clones were shining a blinding white. Naruto, you still got some untapped potential in there. Bring it out already. Irritated by the order to hurry up, Naruto started to also get frustrated with himself. He couldn't seem to find this well of power that his sensei wanted him to find. He had brought out all the energies that he could find and tap into in his body without intentionally killing himself. He knew his sensei didn't want him to but he just couldn't think of anywhere else to look. That's it, Naruto thought to himself. He found it, his mind. He recalled that he had heard that the mind was the most dangerous thing in anyone's arsenal. Knowledge is power and all that. With the knowledge of where he power lay, Naruto simply thought about the power. He did not merely will it, he believed that he had power, that his mind was power, his knowledge was just a part of it. He felt around his mind for what he thought such a power should feel like. When he found the feeling, he grasped it with both his mental hands, and pulled. The explosion that occurred was powerful enough to have leveled Tano Kuni had Naruto been there at the moment. With his eyes still shut, he did not see how his appearance once again changed. His red outfit turned white outfit had changed colors, same with his hair. His aura had also changed. The glow about him was back to blue, but it was more like a neon to light blue, or rather different hues and shades of blue were glowing as his aura. His hooded trench coat was back to its original color, but his undershirt was no longer red, it had morphed into black, it looked like it was coated in the void. His pants were still red, and still had their cloud design, but instead of both leg designs being white, only one leg was white, the other morphed into embroidered gold. Everything else remained as they were. Naruto's body's build and other physical features had changed due to all the exercise that he had done since he arrived. He had gained a more athletic build, he had muscles, but he was not bulky like a pro wrestler. His body was closer to that of his father's, the father that he had yet to realize was his. He looked more like his father now, having lost his whiskers sometime after Token was separated from him. But with his shapeshifting ability he could easily bring them back. Due to his power boost, some runes had appeared along his arms, as well as some seals that had crisscrossed his body. Naruto, do it now, Kyonshi said after the power was gathered. He knew that Naruto couldn't hold all that power for much longer. Tajuu-bushin no jutsu. Naruto screamed while pouring all his gathered power into the technique. Normally he wouldn't have been able to create the number of clones that he had created. They were all the kind that could remain in existence for a few minutes after death. They numbered in the millions. This would be the only time that he would be able to create that many clones, since this time he was in a severely controlled environment. Kyonshi had helped him maintain control over his power. Also, Naruto would never again be able to find a space infinite enough to hold that many clones. After seeing his creations, Naruto just up and fainted from his ordeal. Kyonshi then just snapped his fingers and Naruto's body was once again in the infirmary. He would remain there for the remainder of year 1 while his clones trained for him. Kyonshi would allow some things other than knowledge to be passed over to Naruto after his first year of training. Kyonshi would have the clones study a lot more subject. The Naruto scholar clones had Street USD previously. He would help Naruto improve on his technique. He would not tell him how to do things in their entirety, rather he would have him figure most of the things out on his own. As he left the clones to their tasks, Kyonshi left the room with one thought in mind: Hyakume, you are so screwed. While Naruto trained, Kyonshi would mess with Hyakume's little game. What were 100 eyes compared to nigh omniscience, as well as omnipotence? Token and a number of others would help Kyonshi. While Hyakume more or less only had Ikaku and Dorotobo. Ikaku being a Sennin, a more powerful one compared to Jiraiya. This sage had one horn in the center of his forehead. He had dark blue hair, kind of like a certain Hyuga heiress. Like the Hyuga, he also had pupilless white eyes. He wore a similar garb to Jiraiya, but unlike the Gama Sennin's red coat, Ikaku's was blue. His weapon of choice was a vicious-looking poleaxe, which he either had strapped on his back or held in his hand and used as a staff or walking stick. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.